Hello, everybody. In the great book series, History of Civilization, Part 2 of Arjun Dev Sir, we have the first chapter and the fourth video. First chapter, fourth video. This is a subheading Conditions that favored imperialism. Conditions that favored imperialism in Asia and Africa. The most important condition favoring the imperialist conquest of Asia and Africa was that the Industrial Revolution had not come to this part of the world. The craftsmen produced goods of fine quality that Westerners admired and desired, but they relied entirely on hand tools, which meant production on a small scale. In comparison with the production of the Western countries in the 19th century, Asian and African methods were backward. Also, because of the lack of knowledge that the Industrial Revolution had brought to the West, the two continents were militarily unable to stand up to the armed might and power of Europe. The governments of the countries of Asia and Africa were very weak in the 19th century, though in ancient and medieval times, powerful empires had existed there. In the 19th century, the old ways of governing were still followed, even though they had outlived their usefulness. Strong nation states in the modern sense had not developed. The people's loyalties were still to local princes, as in feudal times, or to tribal chieftains. These rulers cared little for the welfare of the people. These conditions help to explain how small bands of Westerners succeeded in gaining power and finally, with the backing of their governments, in conquering entire countries. The next heading, not the subheading, heading is Conquest of Asia. The subheading of that is the British in India. The decline of the Mughal Empire in India gave the British and the French, who had come to trade, an opportunity to conquer India. The English East India Company, formed in 1600, was victorious in its conflict with France, which ended in 1763. Beginning with Bengal, almost the entire country came under the rule of the English East India Company. After the revolt of 1857, the British government took over direct control of India. Many princely states survived, but they were free more in name than in fact. Britain's conquest of India was complete. The conflict between the English East India Company and the French was over establishing a monopoly of trade. After the English company gained control, the country's vast resources fell into its hands. There was no longer any need to bring money from England to buy Indian goods. They were purchased with money made from British conquest in India and sold in England and Europe. Fortunes were made by the officers of the company. India was known as the brightest jewel of the British Empire. With the coming of the Industrial Revolution in England, British goods poured into this country. This ruined Indian handicraft industries. Millions of pounds were drained out of India to England in the form of profits and as payments to the British government as direct tribute and home charges. India's interests were subordinated more and more to British interests. In 1877, the British Queen took the title Empress of India, like the one used earlier by the Mughals. The British conquest led to many changes in the Indian social and economic life, to extend Indian markets for British goods and to make use of India's natural resources. Railway construction was started on a large scale. What we see in India today is still that only. British rulers gave special privileges to their own planters, and within a short time, a number of tea, coffee, and indigo plantations grew up. In 1883, all import and export duties were waived. Indian resources, both human and material, were used to promote the interests of British imperialism in China, Central Asia, and Africa. To prevent opposition from the Indian people, the British imposed laws to stifle the expression of public opinion. They excluded Indians from responsible positions in government and discriminated against them in other institutions and in social life. Imperialism in China. Subheading is Imperialism in China. Imperialist domination of China began with what are known as the Opium Wars. Before these wars, only two ports were open to foreign traders. British merchants bought Chinese tea, silk, and other goods, but there was no market for British goods in China. Then British merchants started smuggling opium into China on a large scale. The illegal opium trade was profitable to the British traders but did immense physical and moral damage to the Chinese. In 1839, when a Chinese government official seized an opium cargo and destroyed it, Britain declared war and easily defeated the Chinese. The Chinese were then forced to pay heavy damages to the British and to open 5 port cities to Britain traders. The Chinese government also agreed that in future, British subjects in these ports would be tried for any crimes in English rather than in Chinese courts. This provision, which other Western countries copied, came to be known as extraterrestrial rights. The Chinese government was no longer free to impose tariff on foreign goods. The island of Hong Kong was turned over to the British. Soon, France entered into similar unequal treaties with China. On the pretext that a French missionary had been murdered, England and France fought another war with China. China was defeated and was forced to grant more privileges to her conquerors. And here we'll stop. In the next video, we'll go for the next part in this chapter of imperialism and colonialism.